Alright, hello and welcome back to the Zodiac Trial. Tonight I'm going to just be doing some developer commentary here because I've got quite a bit to do this weekend, so I don't want to do anything too taxing, and I'm not really feeling any of my usual filler, so I thought, you know what, let's just do some VN stuff. So unlock the computer. Key, did you solve the puzzle? Here we are. From the beginning, I knew I wanted a mouse antagonist route. Unfortunately, to make it fit her make her fit the blank slate role, it couldn't come from a backstory place. Instead, I went for the angle of making a mouse a killer out of necessity. Alright, yeah, so it sounds like they intentionally kept a mouse a bit generic, but she wasn't a complete blank slate, and I will say right now, I do appreciate that the game did that. Having an established personality and stuff for Mouse made it a lot easier to swallow her being stuck to do certain events because it felt, well, it makes sense. We're in Mouse's shoes, and it only makes sense. Likewise, it did make the Mouse antagonist role a much bigger deal because we needed a good reason that would motivate her because, hey, it wouldn't be in her character to betray everyone unless she was given a very good reason. How about doing this? This gives her a good reason. And I'm actually glad to hear they were hoping to do a mouse antagonist route as well, because I do genuinely think this is one of the more interesting parts of the game, because usually you don't get to play the bad guy, and while it's obviously not going to be my favorite route, while it may not be a favorite, the favored route, is not favorite, favored, because, you know, you can't avoid it being feeling like a bad ending to some extent. I'm really glad it's here, and I felt it really did add a bit more to the game's depth. Instead, I went for the angle of making killer out of necessity. I thought it'd be fun to play the villain. Well, I strongly agree. Yeah. That meant the only way for me to live would be involve others dying. Alright, so to get past this juncture, I wanted to be hard, hence needing the justification to find the files from Ox. The reason I wanted to be hard to get to was sort of because I viewed this route as non-canonical in a way. 99 out of 100 times Mouse confesses here. Yeah, like I said, the fact Mouse has an established personality makes it a lot easier to understand. Well, it makes sense most of the time she'd confess, because that's her character. She's not the type to do that, and she doesn't have enough the kind of backstory that would justify her being willing to do that without a good reason. In that sense, it's kind of a what if, but in the end, wasn't there anything I could do? Is there any more commentary in this? No. I don't know why Rooster was actually dumb here. Usually think through something like that. The real reason because I wanted to end this route on a joke. The in-universe reason might be because, hey, everyone can make mistakes. Rooster was panicking in this scenario. Yeah, thinking about it, it does seem a bit odd, because the whole thing about Rooster is that despite how dumb he acts, he's actually very smart about it. Alright, now we're gonna be the villain here. Mouse cutting this off of the past is another way that this route diverges from the flow of others. Yeah, I remember pointing that out when it happened. To keep characterization in line, I tried to make Mouse more clever than a lot of the villains that came before her, but not as good as a murderer. To keep characterization, I tried to make Mouse more clever than a lot of the villains that came before her, but not as good as a murderer villain. To that end, I thought a good way to establish early would be her having to come up with the technique of signaling her partner nobody else figures out. Mouse is right. Yeah, I also figure from this end, it's probably it's intentional that you're supposed to learn who Rooster is pretty much is your partner immediately. This isn't one of those routes where the two traders struggle to get in contact to collaborate. The two work together immediately. Rooster being Mouse's partner was really a process of elimination. A lot of the partners had already been chosen, but I'm super glad with how it worked out. I think I even could have chosen anybody, honestly. Even if I could have chosen anybody, I would have still gone with Rooster. On one hand, it seemingly nerfs Mouse early on, which adds good tension, but on the other hand, Rooster and Mouse's antics as a murderous duo are just a lot of fun. Some levity in an otherwise dark route. Yeah. I'm not sure if... yeah, breaking a bit of character for the sake of a sort of villain route. It makes sense that it's a non-canonical because it just doesn't fit the character, but giving it the option really adds an extra layer to the game's writing that I just really appreciate. Rooster's absolutely right here. More people should adopt this way of thinking. The only way math works out is to read Gildavan Beach. That's not necessarily true. How else could you explain it? Well, what if you said Snake died twice? That's what we wouldn't do. Oh, come on, Mouse, don't be absurd. How's what I said any more absurd? My argument's facts and reason, you're just saying numbers. Rooster's absolutely right. More people should adopt this way of thinking. Alright, so, oh yeah, so the developer's referring to how he said each of them did half the kill on Snake. And I can understand that. Neither of them is innocent at all, even if they weren't the one. Initially, I planned the whole route to be a choose-your-own-murder plot thing, with even more options on how to handle things. If one of your attempts were particularly bad, you'd get caught midway, but that would mostly lead up to a big confrontation at the end where all your choices are evaluated, and you could somewhat mitigate mistakes with good arguments. Unfortunately, I very, very quickly realized, before even starting this route, how much of an endeavor that would be. I simply couldn't justify how much work on a route that a lot of people might not even see. Yeah, I did notice that this route seems to focus largely on just the one, because a lot of the different trader routes split into two, sometimes even three different routes, depending on how events play out. But in this case, it's just entirely focused on Mouse being the villain, and doing this and focusing on just one set of murders they do to throw everyone off is probably better than trying to do a choose-your-own murder that can go any number of ways, but will all converge at the end. As nice as that would be better if you decided to put an entire game around that, rather than just a single route here. Yeah, I mean, I could see a bunch of different endings, a bunch of stuff, like if this entire game was entirely Mouse the Traitor, and all the endings were based on the outcomes, based on what kind of murders she does. I think that could work, but for this particular game where anyone could be a traitor, forced into the traitor role, it makes more sense to do that. Still like the concept, though. Oh, honestly, that alone might be worth exploring the whole— Yeah, precisely what I was saying. Glad me and the developer are on the same wavelength for that. Or at least a significant section of another game. I don't know, keeping the chambers in case. Now I'm gonna need you to strip Rooster. What? In the closet. Oh yeah, the correct hiding spot is in the closet drawer, so that Ox doesn't find it suspicious we found the clothes in there. He just goes, ah, that's right, we should have checked in there. A lot of the choices do somewhat boil down to Goldilocks, too obvious, not obvious enough, and just right formula. What can I say? It's a good formula. Yeah, I can get that. I don't know what compelled me to add this interaction to the scene. I'm not sure whether or not I regret it. Oh, oh yeah, this more lighthearted. Oh yeah, this was a more lighthearted one in the middle of the route. Still, sometimes they do light things out here. For as dark as this game is on the whole, sometimes it is good to have a few lighthearted moments. It's here and there. Now, for this one specifically, I'm not sure, but at the same time, well, I guess that's more reason Rooster was a really good option to pair with Mouse, because while he does seem like he's holding it back, might be potentially holding her back compared to someone like, say, Horse. It does at least mean... I lost my train of thought here. But yeah, even with his role at the end, I still think he was a good choice for it. I don't know what compelled me. I'm not sure whether or not I regret it. Well, for whatever it's worth, I don't think it was a bad addition. It was a bit weird, I admit, but it's probably better that it was here rather than not having it. At least that's my personal take. Feel free to disagree with me. The weapons. I think framing the crime on Bunny, one of the bigger assholes, was pretty fitting. Well, then I suppose we should get back to it then. Yeah, whatever. Probably cheat or something. Fine, I'll do it. Basically, it's the same no matter... Originally, you could also get Tiger's first name here, but I ultimately preferred forcing you to spread out to find it. Originally, you could also get Tiger's first name from here, and not just on Tiger's route, but ultimately I preferred forcing you to spread out to find it. Yeah, I think that was a good idea, because you need to do the route that gives you... Yeah, I remember thinking about it in the last time I streamed this game. In order to complete the game, you first need to do Sheep's route to get the date of when this all started. Bunny's route to get his true name. Or, well, no, it wasn't Bunny's route. I forget which one it is, but yeah, the one where you learned his, and Tiger's route to get hers. That's 3 separate routes. However, since you have to do the Sheep route to get the date in order to unlock this route, period, that would make the unlocking of the Tiger's name a much more linear direction. Which, that could work, to be fair, but I think it's better to spread it out, given the point of this game is all the different outcomes. Don't even pick up my plan. Hey, I made this Mars burst, so I can pick things up when you bring them down. I think I only added the scene for 2 reasons. 1, I wanted to lengthen the route a bit with an easier, intermittent kill. 2, I was thinking about how people tend to assume that once they've checked a spot in hide and seek, they tend to rule it out. Ooh, that's really good. I was wondering if you could use that in a murder mystery. Turns out you can, though I bet you could probably do a trick far more clever than what Rooster comes up with here. Yeah, the whole reason here that Dog fails to... The whole reason Dog fails to identify us as the killer is because he checks through the room and doesn't find anything without realizing the body could have been moved between them like that. He just went through a room, assumed it was gone, and continued. It even directly said in the text here, he was specifically looking for bodies. It's pretty clear he knew a pig must already be dead, and that's why he tried to see it where a mouse could have hidden it. People tend to assume or rule it out. I bet you could probably do a trick far more clever than what Rooster does here. Anyways, what were we saying for this whole distraction? Tiger, yeah, she's an issue. Just hide. I think this is the only time in the game where they abuse the rule that if someone else is in the room when you access your computer, you die, but it's a very good use of it. I guess it makes sense. There'd be no reason... Tiger's the one most likely to put her guard down in a situation like that, while for most, they'd be willing to check it out, or at least aside from... Here, I just really wanted someone weaponize hiding in a room to get someone executed. I thought initially getting someone executed would be more often employed strategy than... I thought initially getting someone executed would be a far more often employed strategy than it actually ended up being. Rooster got out of his hiding spot, looked down the carnage. The reason that his choice... Anyway, it could be useful. The reason that this is a choice, because it felt like me, like it should be a choice. That's generally how it is. I try to put in choices whenever it felt like a mouse would be split. I don't know if I always succeed on that, but I can think of a few points where I do railroad a bit to keep things from sprawling out too much if I tried. I thought just making this choice a live death switch was pretty weak, so instead I made it branch out the true ending. I don't know whether I prefer mouse alone or murder's partners as an ending. They both have pros and cons. No matter where you in this section, Ox closes in on you. This might seem frustrating, but it's meant to indicate a sort of helplessness as he slowly realizes a conclusion right before Mouse is forced into action. Judging by everything we know, I think... Yeah, the whole point of this scene is Ox closing in on her. Doesn't matter what we choose. It's because the point is he's figuring it out. Horse going crazy here is the function of a lot of things. For one, Sheep is dead, which something that grounds a lot. Yeah, whether or not Sheep survives or trusts Horse seems to be a big focus on his mental state. For another, the murders kept happening fast enough in bizarre enough fashion he was losing trust in everybody. For record, he's probably the one more wrong move away in the snake route from defaulting this state here as well. The interviews are just what they indicate, speaking with the characters in the story. Yeah, that reminds me, there's an ending here. Let's go with the last of the endings, just to see. This scene sort of parallels the one in the mouse route, but this one works a bit better because it's reinforcing the theme with gameplay. Perhaps too blunt. You want to do something, but all your choices end in failure. Yeah, this is a pretty good way to show that, this honestly goes back to the very beginning of the game, because once you get the proper route, we find out that the whole thing was just the game up until that point, until the end, was basically the main villains trying to figure out a path that would get them to be able to control who they needed to live and die like that properly. So it makes sense to help establish just how smart Monkey was and how much she genuinely did think through everything. Hence why I feel it's a really big deal. Hence why I feel like the pig and rooster attacks were all absolutely essential to taking her down, because those were not planned. They just happened. They were out of circumstance. She had to find a way around Pig's murder to try and pin on someone else, but then she took out Rooster, but she didn't have time for that. This seems very cheesy, so I try and play as tongue-in-cheek as possible. Okay, so some of you may be wondering why didn't Rooster's explosive go off if he didn't input in action. If you're wondering that, congratulations, you're more astute than all my playtesters and also myself. It's a very big plot hole I didn't even think of until too late, but in my defense, nobody else did either. I think they were too preoccupied with, the conclusion of the story. Luckily, I caught it before too late and wrote in a justification in the Rooster interview. It really is a sweet way of this issue response, but, yeah. Number of emotions. Yeah, I imagine either his was never rigged to explode, or, yeah, if I had to guess, probably his was never rigged to explode, or he just somehow did anyways. Yeah. The last one I choose, pocket it. I slipped it in my pocket. For now, it's better off with me. Like with Morgan Everett's ending in Deus Ex, the kind of the information that could be used to help people can be a blessing in the hands of the right person, but by definition, in order for them to be able to be helpful, it has to be information that could potentially be damaging to others. Now, of course, whether or not you trust Morgan Everett depends on your thoughts from the first Deus Ex game, and I won't go into that because for two reasons. First of all, it's a bit out of the scope of this stream right now, and also I'd like to plug my Deus Ex stream. So if you want to hear my thoughts, feel free to watch those VODs. But yeah. I don't know how I forgot to do this last time, but I do think it's worth doing. There's an author theme of mine wearing its ugly head. I don't know why, but a number of stories I have thought are planned out, and with the character being faced with the choice what to do with the USB or thumb drive. Like I said, I have no idea why I'm apparently obsessed with this concept, but I guess it's inevitable it'd end up in the first game I made as well. Yeah, I guess you can kinda figure that out. Sometimes developers just have a recurring theme, whether or not they intend to. I believe, let's see here. What's one that most people recognize? Most people know Yahtzee through his Zero Punctuation Review series, but he makes quite a few different games. He's made quite a few games over the years, and a common theme throughout quite a bit of them is the idea that you can't fight fate. There's either some sort of prophecy or planning, and in the best ending, that comes to pass. He has openly stated it's not something he went out and intentionally did, it just keeps happening, so sometimes that's just how it goes, I guess. Finally free. Now let's see how this path changes. I'm not sure how the decision to make everyone's epilogue depend on Mouse's. I'm not sure how the decision to make everyone's epilogues dependent on Mouse's conversations with them came about. I guess I wanted to feed in the feeling of infinite endings with Black Joker. Also the idea that for the first time it's real life, so decisions really do matter in a way that can't easily be taken back. Yeah, since the decisions for the majority of the game were just Rooster and Monkey trying to figure out what kind of outcome would result in what they want to have happen. For one of the interview locks, I had to delegate which outcomes were a character's good ending, but I actually think another of them are debatable. I know at least one person's going to argue with me that the best outcome for Bunny was the one where he rots in a jail cell, and I understand the sentiment. Oh yeah, he finally woke up, didn't he? Indeed. Honestly, after spending so long in intensive care, I thought I was a goner, totally. Since I stole the incriminating flash drive, it's been difficult to prove much regarding the whole police situation. Didn't you revolutionize the police force? Yes. Oh, and it appears Bunny's paying time. gathering confidants. For as harsh as I've been to Bunny, I do kind of like the ending where he at least causes an uprising, because while I do think he's not exactly a pleasant person, that doesn't mean he can't still turn around and do the right thing. I mean, if he dies, then obviously he can't, then perhaps write it up to karma, but if he's genuinely trying to fix it, and this does do that, then I'm willing to accept that. Perhaps others will disagree with me. Perhaps others will feel I wasn't harsh enough to him. Who knows? Either way, the fact that he's often brought up as a controversial character means that he's definitely meant to be a bit divisive, so I can respect that. At the end of the day, again, like I said in Deus Ex, a good game with a good intrigue is one that will start a discussion, and even if it's a discussion like this about whether or not a character is one of the bigger antagonists or not, yeah, I think that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, it still hasn't bypassed my memory. It hasn't, what's the word? It hasn't escaped my notice that most ones where you try and trust Bunny, things don't end well, but I think that might be intentional, and perhaps it even forces him to reflect, given all that, yeah. Given all the... what could potentially happen? Standing there, my eyes wandered the stolen USB. Evidently, Sodox. Is that? It is, I figured. I knew you took it when I realized it wasn't recovered. So what are you gonna do with it? Why'd you take it? Are you gonna publish it online for the world to see? Or are you gonna put it in your own uses, blackmailing people like Amadeus? Or are you just going to start by looking through it all and decide from there? Truthfully speaking, I don't know why I grabbed it. I just figured turning it would be a mistake, and I didn't want secrets to vanish to the ether. The flash drive represents opportunity, possibility. With that, I could do so many things. I could be a benevolent reveal of the truth, a devilish mastermind like Bowen. Who deserve to be outed? Why would secrets stay secret? I need to decide that myself. They are important questions. But I was the one in control, and that was the most important thing. There are infinite ways for the universe to live. This is merely one. No man has set path he must walk, but in the end, all must make the choice of which. Yeah, I do like each of the... I think the better outcomes are either where Mouse takes it or Mouse destroys it, because just leaving it means it's going to be in the hands of someone else. With Mouse, what we know of Mouse's personality, it seems unlikely she'll become mastermind. Or at least that's what I feel based on this. So basically, either destroy and end the madness once and for all, or reveal it, or most likely reveal it to the public, the truth. End the madness by revealing the truth. Yeah, I'd say those are probably the two outcomes I'd consider most desirable, personally. Although I'm sure plenty might disagree on that. I should probably use this if I'm gonna be jumping there. I don't think it matters too much here. Oh. Some sheep. Let's go with the horse timeline. See what because the horse trader timeline is actually one of the more definitely one of the more intense ones. Monkey's confession here might be a bit odd, but there's some rationale behind it. Basically, Monkey's trying to find routes where she wins in the long game. To not confess here makes her look real bad in the long game. I figured something like that, yeah. I did not escape my notice that while she does always confess, she also always stirs the pot. Which brought me to the Harley Quinn comparison, which ended up being more... I don't think that choice actually matters. Yeah, this is the pig route. I accidentally did the wrong one, but that's okay. This is the only route where the confession mechanic is actually utilized, which makes characters forgetting about it fitting, I think. Since most of the players have also probably forgotten about it by this point as well. Oh yeah, I did notice that. Despite the confession mechanic being presented as one of the major choices, this is the only time it's ever used, and 2 out of the 3 confessions are purely to say nothing. Although, don't get me wrong, the fact that the ones where they both stayed silent for no other reason than to avoid moving themselves results in the same response of, that confession is worth 0 points, you suck, for both. That was when I realized, yeah, we're definitely dealing with a decent amount of pre-recorded statements here. Bunny's brought in because he's the most morally compromised. The idea that the two of them are basically just going to make him an unwitting accomplice by bringing him in here, threatening him with execution/info on him, and buying his silence. Not a great permanent solution, but the best that can be done at this point. Yeah, this one is an interesting decision because originally you were asked to actually solve this puzzle yourself. You had full control of the pieces and could do what you wanted. However, this ended up being way too complicated. Yeah, I'm going to sit here and say that I don't think it would have been very easy to, given how extremely complicated the solution is, just deciding whether or not having Mouse solve it for you and simply deciding whether or not you agreed with Ox would be a good enough for that. It's way too complicated for the game as it is. Yeah, especially since, like I said, as nice as the story and stuff is, the actual puzzles are fairly straightforward text puzzles, so to suddenly have a proper, I'll get everyone to the finish line with this, and require you to put all those steps in, that's a bit too much, I think, especially since the game... It'd be one thing if the game had had you mess with the pieces and use people's abilities to travel further regularly. Since in that case it'd be preparing you for this sort of thing, but no, I think it was a lot better to just have Mouse solve it for the player. If only Mouse investigated more. Obviously, Monkey wouldn't have been just standing around. She set up the scene to fool passerbys. Once again, this route functions a little differently. Instead of the big confrontation, you're left on a somber note. I know some people who didn't like Pig, but for those who did, I think this is a big point in our favor. Most characters don't really learn a lesson in their route, and if they do, it's surface level if that. Pig's one of the few with full knowledge of their sins and ends up taking full responsibility and reflecting. This section basically just throws out a bunch of shade at everybody. Need to keep people on their feet. This is a nod to the fact there's a way to get out with no deaths. Two of the lighter criminals are dead. Oh yeah, this is the one where they considers those the lighter ones. This is not the fact there's a way to get out with no deaths. On a more meta level, the purpose of this dialogue is to show Jade Emperor talking with people while everyone's around, maskless. Everyone except Pig and Monkey, both of whom are dead. Alright, so yeah, this proves that the Jade Emperor, since we know from the true ending that Brian was dead since before the start of the Zodiac Trial, the Zodiac Race Trial, that is. So, oh yeah, everyone except who are both dead. I guess Monkey could have faked her death for it to do that. Because, remember, the only person who could have been there was, since we know Brian was dead from the start, it has to be either Monkey or Rooster, and Rooster was there with everyone else, so they would have noticed he was talking, given no one else had a mask. So, yeah, I guess this is supposed to be another hint towards Monkey being one of the main masterminds here. Let's see here. This choice doesn't matter because no matter what, everyone yourself. This route. Ooh, this route. This is a real tricky needle to thread. How to reveal the mastermind's true nature without giving things away. I mean, it had to have her manipulating the others into taking each other out. That just had to be the case. But how to do it in a way that keeps her character intact for the people who don't see it, but also properly justifies it. I decided to lean to her curiosity and blame her madness on the chair. Some implications and other routes that she has tendencies to fall into this sort of thing. Hopefully it tricks players. Yeah, I can see why this one was necessary, but also tricky, because it needs a hint at her being the overall mastermind without flat out giving it away. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal the traitor on this route. Are you crazy? Crazy? This whole route's sort of a big reference to other places. I was quite tempted to lock this route behind something that would make it harder to see, because running to it very late makes it more effective in my opinion. Ultimately, I changed my mind, though. Well, anyways, this whole scene references Tiger's route, the whole lying witness about being hit in the back of the head, walking on Tiger, a separate victim. Oh, I guess I was lucky that I did this one later, then. It's not direct, but it rhymes, so to speak. One of the features I like about this route is how frantic it is. You really get the sense running place to place how desperate Mouse is to keep everything from falling apart. Figured having Rooster kill Ox without a clear motive was fine, since how close proximity this route is to Rooster's route. It's likely either someone's already seen that route or they'll see it soon. Randomly inputting. Of course, as you know, this is now a reference. Listen, when I grab the letter opener, so Rooster does not in fact protect the dead's personality. Damn it, Snake. Listen, when he grabbed that opener, I saw killing intent, so out of pure instinct, I grabbed a nearby textbook and hit him with the side of the head. Of course, now you know this is another reference to Rooster's eventual fate. From the looks of things, you grabbed a nearby pen and stabbed him? Yes, Snake. It was an honest mistake. It was murder. One could reasonably argue self-defense. Mouse's decision here is not great, but hey, give her some credit. After the sequence of events, after everything happened quickly, would you know what the right move is? Again, Snake and Dragon's fates mirror their eventual fates in the true end there. I have to assume this was a major trinket here. In general, this route can leave a lot of questions in the air. That's the intentional, I'd say. Not napping. This was my way of writing Dog out of the story. Is it the most logical thing? Probably not, but it's kind of funny. Yeah, when it turns out he was napping the whole time, I figured, yeah, I guess he's just not supposed to have been a part of this story, more or less. Unsolvable mystery. This might be too obscure for people to reasonably get, but the intended answer for this lied in who Monkey tied up. Rooster, acting as Monkey's partner, smuggled her a blade instrument, just as a precaution. Interesting, but that does make sense. So the break point in this conversation... The break point of this conversation is Dragon not being a traitor, and the conversation getting this far. In other routes, something breaks up before it gets to this juncture, so there's a confession or Mouse's interruptions. When it gets to this point, Dragon isn't a traitor. She'll interject here because she doesn't like how much Ox is controlling things. It didn't happen that long ago. The gimmick of this branch is I want to do routes that make use of major trinkets. Honestly speaking, 4 with just this combo is probably too many, but it's just sort of how it worked out. Rethinking things, I probably should have taken one route from here and moved to the pathway with the Dragon Snake Trader pair, or maybe Horse and Tiger, but oh well. Okay, so there's no real need to fear at all. Goodness. Originally, a problem with the upcoming branch was the second choice. You used to say actually, which made it look like you were reconsidering your first choice. Now it's a bit more explicit. Mouse is speaking up on another matter. I think a lot of people are going to end up choosing this option before the other one, because to get to this pairing, you have to search... Bunny dog. I think a lot of people are going to end up choosing this option for the other, because a lot of people got this because have to search with Bunny Dog before this. I think the other interaction adds some intrigue, makes people want to know more about the relationship. Just a loose theory. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened with me, so you are right on the money. That was right on the money there. Someone who wanted to plunge the game in the... What the... Who would ever want to activate that item? Someone who wanted to plunge the game in the chaos, that's who. That's an item pretty much guarantees massive amounts of bloodshed. It's also fun. Yeah. The upcoming plan from Ox is less than ideal. I know that. I'm sure many well-thought people can come up with better ideas without too much effort, but in their defense, they only have a handful of minutes and are struggling for their lives, so it's the best they can accept. Yeah, the whole point of this is there's not much time and you have to pick someone, so... The big mistake of the group is just letting people volunteer like this. It lets opportunists like Dog get on the action pretty easily. Tiger and Ox were targeted because they were the positive and group pillars. Without them, it's far more likely the group will fall into chaos, which the traders obviously like. This route was originally going to be more of a shifting factions, Lord of the Flies, paranoia type of flair. I don't think it ended up exactly like that, but I'm still more or less satisfied how things ended up. This was... If this was the outcome, Snake... Once we became willing to murder innocents, our bargaining leverage greatly increased. I wonder if this was the outcome Snake foresaw. This was indeed the outcome Snake foresaw. Dog ends up fighting quite a few trinkets throughout the routes. Anyways, that happens with those 5. In fairness to those who thought they should have remembered from the start, the concept of stealing fabric tablets from dead bodies has to be discovered in every route. In fairness to those who thought they should have remembered this from the start, the concept of stealing tablets from dead bodies has to be discovered in every route. For the people who've seen the killer's routine, routinely clean their victims' tablets may seem like a big oversight, but in the heat of things, I think it's reasonable to miss it. Yeah, this is the voting route. Bunny jumps ship here because he knows the center won't hold with the other group. Plus, he doesn't want to execute the other traitor, so as long as the other traitor exists, people's logic is greatly deduced and he has an ally he can count on. Suspect someone in the library group's trailer? Yeah. Oh yeah, this is why Bunny jumps to our side instead of the other one. He knows the center won't hold with the other group. Plus, he doesn't want to execute the other traitor. So as long as the other one exists, people's logic is greatly reduced and he has an ally he can count on. Yeah, if you want to get past this one, you have to use the extra tablet. Does this seem like a good idea? Again, initially I thought more of this, initially I thought a lot more of this would have the sort of vibe. An Among Us, oh yeah, style of waves, figuring out who's acting suspicious. Well, I knew the general concept was there, but I didn't know if it'd be getting actually a name dropped. A lot more of this would have the sort of vibe. It's been suspicious, though that game wasn't big yet when I wrote it. Yeah, it's easy to forget, but Among Us was actually released about 2 years before it actually got big. It was mostly just held together because some European and Korean streamers were doing it on a regular basis. It absolutely was definitely one that wasn't expected to get big even by those who liked it. Logic of everyone. It all led to a popularity contest with deathly stakes. At the time upon the game face, it was now. We have to trust the dragon, because we can't allow Dog to be in the trustworthy people. Oh, poor sheep. It might seem a bit surprising that someone got voted out before some of the other characters present. But in a situation like this, being passive makes you a target. Yeah, it's one of those, you haven't said anything, that's awfully suspicious. 3 seconds later, he sighed. Weak, not victorious. This is one of the trickier checks in the game. For a lot of people, you need to make two choices that reduce your target status. However, based on some of the earlier choices, you can actually have a lower target status and afford a mistake or two. Bunny turning on dog is probably a mistake here. Turn on dog is probably a mistake here. It doesn't buy him as much goodwill as he thinks it's going to, but in his defense, since dog didn't really designate a clear target, they can't really coordinate. From dog's perspective, pulling a last-minute suspicion on horse might have been the best move. That convinces Dragon. Bunny and Dragon probably join him to vote out horse. And with the biggest potential threat in a 2v3, they're looking real pretty. His defense, dog didn't really designate a clear target, they couldn't coordinate. Yeah. During the routes where Bunny is the villain, he does try and earn goodwill by outing out his partner, but problem is that doesn't really help him much. Gee, he's not really that good at as much good as negotiating as he seems to think he is. But yeah, like the developer here says, because Dog didn't designate a target like he did last time when he tried to get Mouse out, there wasn't any kind of coordination, and I guess Bunny figured, well, if someone's going to lose, I don't mind sometimes throwing the partners under the bus. The death, if you get this wrong, is a little odd. Bunny should be content to escape with any two of you. To be honest, it might have been better just let you get out alive with the traitor, but I think that's a lot less viscerally satisfying. My justification is that Bunny's planning on dotting his I's and crossing his T's. If he can get away with just straight up killing the remaining three, he's gonna go with that plan that guarantees his safety and removes witnesses of his crimes. Yeah, I guess given Bunny's personality, it could go either way. I mean, as we saw, he's fine throwing his partner under the bus once if he thinks it would benefit him. But at the same time, he's kind of desperate to just get out of here, period, so theoretically, he should be fine with any of them. But yeah, like in the route where Snake is content escaping with you as one of his only partners as the traitor, or it does end on a bit of a sour note, even though, technically speaking, Mouse does get out alive. In character for Bunny, at least, yeah. And of course, we can't escape that he's not exactly the most pleasant person. After voting horse, you guided the conversation, so horse was in the options for voting to tie it. Not gonna lie, this little trick is one of my favorite deceptive moments of the whole game. It's minor, but clever, I think. Also, could be innocent in this debate. Makes sense to me. This backstory is a little ham-fisted, I must admit, but does play that way in universe. It's Bunny trying to gain sympathy before he makes his pitch. Even defeated, he's looking for an angle to get out. Alright, I'll admit, I just love the gambling shit, want to cram into one of the routes. Sue me. I'm gonna make the statement that Brian had the same level of thought I did, just really into the gambling mood and hastily added that into his plans. Well, it does certainly make things pretty interesting. I mean, I remember watching a YouTube video a while ago that went over the entire details of gambling scenes in some movies, such as the Pirates of the Caribbean one with the liar's dice that I mentioned when I did this for the first time. That's in character for him. Full disclosure once more, I did just put the section in after getting in the cribbage app for my phone. Take from the stuff you know and some such. Rooster coming in clutch for the fun ruiner. Oh yeah, since Monkey's here with us, that means it has to be Rooster who's playing the Jade Emperor at this moment. They should fill their intended purposes. Yeah, I have to stay and watch to avoid being killed in the aftermath here. You know, for such an important plot point as this could be, I never really do utilize the win with two other people mechanic. It's threatened or offered a few times. Once or twice, Mouse can accidentally win with the traitor, but no one ever straight up offers, hey, I'm the traitor, let's work together. Probably because no one would take someone up on that offer. Well, Pig kind of in the Ox route, but that's mostly through coercion. That's a good point, yeah. I guess it makes sense. The people who act as traitors are usually forced into it, and they don't try to make an alliance because, well, winning with 9 others is usually going to be a bit more satisfying than winning with 3 others. With 2 other, well, it's one person involved, so one person winning with 8 others is going to be a lot more interesting. Is a lot better. Is going to be a lot more tempting than winning with 2 others. Originally, Dragon had a larger gamble, but I didn't want to spend too long on any one encounter. I think this route already suffers from the problem being too formulaic. Each character gets a shot at dog, looks like they're gonna win, but ultimately falls until Mouse steps up. Yeah, thinking of... I still like it, it's definitely not perfect. Yeah, I think it does have a bit of an... Yeah, it does drag on a little bit too much. Desperation really messed up Bunny's reasoning. You could say it was at least worth a shot, but in no universe would this really work. If you value everyone's self-interest, nobody benefits from helping him. He still had a good out via draws from the deck, but after this little stunt, even if he pulled a comeback, he'd be screwed, whereas if he kept his mouth shut, and if he succeeded, he'd be in a fantastic position. This is a pretty sick trick Dog tries here, even using other people's turns to try and take down the competition. In a sense, I think every person's villain route is showing them in their perfect element, facing down the rest of the group. Horse is placed on a battlefield, Bunny's put in a game of social prowess, Snake's put in a murder mystery, and Dog gets to prove his might through gambling, the one thing he's truly skilled at. Yeah, I did notice that. I think the politics surrounding the specific way the rules of Trinket play out and how it interacts with everyone's this particular Trinket plays out and how it interacts with everyone's self-interest is low-key interesting. I suspect it's not as engaging as most people as it is for me, but I sort of like the metagame how everyone's working around the whip, really tying this route together. Yeah, I do like how everyone reacts to it. It's just that, like the developer themselves said, it does suffer a bit of look like they're about to win only for them to fail, and it does that a few too many times in a row, but at the same time, it's a bit necessary. Though I guess it could have been skipped really quick for the dragon and for yeah, since the horse is first, then dragon and tiger end up with the same thing. Yeah. So it's a little too quick. Actually, I think tigers in particular, I think could have been skipped with just a. It looked like tiger's gonna win, but the same thing happened. Then of course with dragon again, and I don't mind dragon doing that because she did the one thing that seems so simple it would be difficult to cheat, but then Snake noticed it, but he couldn't point it out because that would count as interfering. Yeah. So yeah, I did like the one with the horse where where a dog was just straight up cheating, but horse wasn't able to pick up on it, and no one else could point it up on it. Tigers I think could have been skipped, but dragons I did like how she tried to make it so simple it would be impossible to cheat, only to underestimate him because that does work. Yeah, I think so. I think it could be shortened, but I do like, in the general sense, how some of the mentalities of the gambling here is, including the liar's dice one. I don't know. I guess I like how everyone has to weigh the good of the group against the good of the individual and think 2 steps out. Yeah, like I do think the gambling stuff in here in general is good. It's just that I think at least Tigers could have been skipped, maybe another because it does get pretty quick. But as soon as I think it's fine as soon as Dog gets all 3 of the muscle heads on his side. Well, well, for the most part, Tiger said she doesn't mind turning against him, but she can't take both the dragon and the horse, so she could probably take one, but not both. But yeah, once it gets those 3, I think it's fine. Pulls together a lot of elements, how both the trader's personalities work, the physical strength of the individuals, and how the trinket works, people's tolerance for selfishness. Yeah, in the general sense, I have gotten to appreciate how gambling scenes can show off characters' personalities and such, so yeah, I actually do like this route, if only see the various interactions. Eventually, even things like a weapon advantage and appealing to Jade Emperor are factored in. I just think it's neat. Yeah, I like this route in the general sense, and so even if it does have a few flaws, may still be one of my favorites. 2 and 3 has this sort of game perfect, except that's actually not how math works, but there's a super duper minor sublime theme of this game of Snake not being good at math, but that he makes math mistakes at like 2 other points. Initially, this section was going to be an actual minigame where the opponent had an AI and the rules were random. I could say I chose not to do that in the sense of deliberacy and care, but to be honest, it's just a lot of work I didn't want to do. That is 100% perfectly fair. And it just means and if we're honest, that would have just meant I'd have save scummed until I got it right. Still, I did put some thought into how Dog plays this game. For example, you'll notice he rolls doubles suspiciously often. Why? Well, that's an Ox's route, where he mentions how easy it is to flip a die when people preoccupy their own. Yeah, I was about to bring that up, but yeah. So yeah, he was indeed cheating against Mouse as well. It's impossible to do this once the game is properly started. When Mouse is looking over her own stuff, he can get away with it. I also try and think through the process for every move he makes. I wanted to make it very smart, obviously, but not like a god mode intelligence. Basically, and still misread Mouse if she plays carefully. The game can go a few different ways. You can win handily or make it super close. Wonder how many people beat him first try. I expect not many, but I could be mistaken. Yeah, he can't be the one because that's technically true. Alright, it can't be a 6 because he knows that's a cheat. Smirk and answered 1-3. That was a definite win. Yeah. Oh well, win some, lose some. I will openly admit I knew that because the developer commentary directly said he always rolls doubles. Two twos, call. 1-4. No need to get fancy, I just try something higher. 1-5. What? 1-6. If I lose, I play naturally. Maybe another duck's way you'll knock him. Dog clearly wasn't expecting this response after I spoke up. 2 5s. I had no idea where that came from. It was definitely wrong. Call. Scoundrel's hand was a 5, which meant I win. Seems like it. Yes. That was a win, clean and simple. No tricks, no cheats. Alright, so yeah, he could expect this bluff in the first round, but not in the second after he sees that she plays honestly. He didn't get angry, sad, or happy. His face just became empty. Dog and Snake have similar strategies, justifications of killing him because there's probably a traitor/mastermind in the group. Yeah, I did notice that in a few routes, Dog seemed to be willing to wipe out absolutely everyone, even though he knows very well he himself isn't getting out alive. In a way, that's also why it felt like his sacrifice was, to some extent, expected in the true ending, because it seems clear he doesn't mind whether or not he gets out alive as long as he stops whatever's going on. No, not as... He goes out, but it was still doing what he needed. Final deaths are still impactful, don't get me wrong, and in fact, I do appreciate that each of them had a very necessary step. Like I said, the Pig and Rooster's assaults were necessary because they were aspects that Monkey did not plan before everything started. She had to go on the fly, which made it more likely for her to be able to mess up. Probably hence why she didn't expect Rooster to be able to survive that. Although now how they got those conclusions, their philosophy behind their actions, their end goals are both pretty different. Of the two, Dog's a lot more spiteful and cynical, whereas Snake is somewhat more idealistic and careful. Notably, Dog is willing to sacrifice himself, while Snake would prefer against that. Perhaps the most telling is the fact both of them only act on this suspicion when they're already the traitor. I think this suggests that both of them don't really have faith in the theory until they can use an excuse to justify their actions. Actions at their core they already wanted to take. For Snake, it's survival, for Dog, destruction. That's actually an interesting comparison there. Dragon ends up killing a lot of the traitors now that I think about it. Yeah, one thing I got from Dragon is despite her having a foul mouth and generally having an unpleasant personality, she's actually one of the more loyal people. Well, especially towards anyone she considers to be important to her. In fact, I don't think there's very. I think the Tiger route is the only one where she actively attempts to be the traitor. I mean, she does actively try and save herself in the pack's ending, but she does protect her pack with all of her might. Since she considers them like family, just like with her own gang. Alright, that's the other route. Let's go to the main menu real quick. Stir. Yeah, this is a bad team comp. Individually, Ox or Dragon can work well with Mouse, but together they get along worse than Dragon and Bunny, because Bunny at least knows to try and accommodate, which... Alright, so the Ox route. Cards on the table, this might be the weakest route in my opinion, also one of the shortest. Initially I had to make a route where Ox acted as the antagonist, and out of all the characters, that's the least in his nature. The route also built around the gimmick I wanted to try out, where you had limited investigation attempts based on what you found out you could solve part, none, part, or all of it. I still do like that element, and I think this route has some neat moments, but it's a little underwhelming in some other areas. I think the greatest sin, in my opinion, is that it spoils the traitor identities for the other routes in this branch, in perhaps the least climactic way. Yeah. I quite like the Dragon Mouse partners dynamic. I'm sad it doesn't show up much else. I'm sad it doesn't show up much outside this route. In some sense, I think Dragon might be the only other person besides Ox that Mouse could be actual friends with after this is all said and done. Yeah, like I said, Dragon seems to be very attached to people she considers as important. I mean, even in the dog route there, while she does kill, she didn't even think. She just knew that Mouse was in trouble and she needed to protect her. And I think that's the point where I realized Dragon's probably one of the more trustworthy people. Well, because there's no way she'd do that with any kind of colder calculation. She did it just because she knew it was the right thing to do. Originally, this was going to be another game of Liar's Dice, but I figured that'd be a little weird happening in the middle of this arc, especially since the finale of when it's also in the finale of another. Alright, as there's no developer commentary in here, because he explains the concept, reveals that, oh yeah, the poison actually doesn't work. I did in fact name the trinket Kafka's Toxin before I knew how it specifically would work, but I liked the story enough so I knew it'd tie it in some way. The Spanish guys are on the second floor. Rooms you look in, Spanish guys are on the second floor. Subtle pig. Alright, so I did need to do the tiger one there. Alright, stir. The chief prosecutor is one of the characters I considered making a tertiary character like Oliver Bowen, but ultimately I decided that it didn't add enough to the story. Brian and Oliver as non-cast member alive characters were good enough. Yeah, that's... yeah, I think that was a good choice. This whole thing takes on a slightly different layer if you've done the Rooster route. You know, I'm pretty sad there wasn't a route combination where Snake and Dragon as traders work together. That would've been pretty fun. I don't know, I think it does. It kind of gives some interesting implications, given Dragon only seems to act as the trader during Tiger's route, but doesn't get to do much, and on the others, she pretty much doesn't bother. Well, though I guess to be fair, she does get killed. So before she gets too much of a chance for it. There's a structural issue with this juncture. I think the Snake route is better to start with, but I also think the smarter choice is to guard the weapons. I think most people make that choice first. Of course, doesn't bring this up at the other time when the weapons are being guarded. Perhaps it'd be best if we put them in a room and have Tiger stand him. Couldn't we just keep the weapons cafeteria? If it was just piled up, an avid trader could make a run for one of the guns and fire. It's best if we just put them in a room and have Tiger stand aside. Horse doesn't bring this point up in the other timeline where the weapons are being guarded for perhaps obvious reasons. Yeah, because he's the trader there. I like Pig's idea. I'll go. That's a nice vibe. Let's go with that. What to do? The impetus for this route is actually based on the manga series QED. In it, there are a number of cases where it does end up being the person suspected at the start. It often starts with suspicion on the culprit, then investigation. A number of odd details come out, making it seemingly less likely. By the end, it's real yes, so the one suspected at the start, and those details just point to a different person version of events that initially suspected. Tiger's route was an attempt to imitate something like that. Initially, if you said no, Snake would pretty much steal your whole version of events and say so for himself. Tiger's guilt. Initially, if you said no, Snake would pretty much steal your version of events and say for himself. But since I figured a fair number of people might fall for this trick, I should leave more mysteries for them to solve when they go back. That feeling when you're the traitors who deliberately try to push an unstable person to act rashly to create chaos so you can take advantage of, but they end up killing you first. Yeah. Snake was trying to set off a situation here, but it didn't work out for him. The structure of this route is one of the more experimental ones. I don't know if I like the amount of backtracking and potential trial and error, but I think variety helps the routes feel unique, and I don't think getting the true end is too hard here either. If you just accuse Tiger and answer everything correctly, you get the Ox Trust you need. And you can also accrue bonus Tiger Trust points before the route even starts, depending on if and how you've interacted with her. Even if you missed that choice, you gain Tiger Trust points are mostly pretty obvious. Talk with the Tiger girl. I think Tiger wins a guard no matter what. Lock weapons up, huh? If I could be a touch self-indulgent for a second, I'm aware of the objective sense. There's nothing special about it. She was really stabbed at the crack in the door. She'd immediately start writhing around, pass out. That's it. If I could be attached. I'm aware that an objective sense is nothing special about it. For whatever reason, on a personal note, this might be my favorite mystery in the whole game. I think what I like about it is it turns two simple things into something complex. The idea that Sheep might have been alive when Dragon Snake came in isn't too hard to come to. The idea the window could have been locked from the inside after the fact by Snake isn't too hard to figure out. These tricks are strong because they're linked. On its own, Sheep being alive then changes nothing. After all, a lock room still exists. On its own, Snake being able to lock changes. After all, it was locked when Dragon checked it. However, by combining these two, it turns into something completely new and quite difficult to figure it out. It's actually a pretty interesting interaction, yeah. I honestly wonder why more people aren't having visceral reactions like yours. I'll just confirm that this is indeed Snake being genuine. I mean, not completely, but this wasn't some sort of calculated move on his part, nor is it on mine, to be frank. Actually, when I was thinking about who should comfort Mouse, Snake really did jump to mind. The fact he's the killer behind it, and that this acts as a misdirection is only a side benefit. Hey, sometimes interesting stuff like that comes to mind without pre-planning, and it ends up working out for the best for everyone. I mean, it's the snakes behind this is helping could indeed be a side to him genuinely wanting to work with Mouse. After all, if you complete this route where he wins as the traitor, after all, if you complete this route where he wins as the traitor, here he does open himself up to Mouse and admit that if you hate him, he's perfectly fine with that. I guess since he knows that it's pretty much impossible for Mouse to be a traitor or mastermind. Well, obviously she's not the traitor because he knows that it's him, but you get what I mean. And he knows that she can't be the mastermind or the person or anyone who's particularly nasty, so that's probably why he was perfectly fine genuinely trying to help her, even at the cost of everyone else. Snake is definitely one of my favorite characters from this game in the general sense, although, like I said, every single one of them really stands out to a number of ways. I guess this is definitely one situation where you do actually want to work with Bunny rather than alone, because I know it leads to a bad end if you go alone. But it's a ride on. I have to tap this normally, because if I skip, it'll go through the ending, and then I'll have to do the whole thing over. So yeah, he does genuinely feel remorse, but I guess he didn't want to put his plan to action before. Yeah, like with Dog, he didn't want to put his plan to action because he didn't think there was enough to go on yet, but when he was made the traitor, he was given the justification he needed. Snake is probably the best mystery adversary in the whole cast, specifically when it comes down to the confrontation. He keeps a steady tone the whole time while continually trying to dismiss Mouse's claims, and he's always ready for a retort or counter-explanation. He's the route where the confrontation asks you, the player, the most questions. Even Monkey yourself loses a bit, not aiming to really convince, just to defeat. There wasn't much to think about. We'd won. This was our happy ending. Route 12 eventually came to a close and everyone crossed the finish line. Oh, I accidentally clicked the one that stopped it. Nothing's found but weapons and trinkets. Snake will be assigned the role, forces him to act. If given a go opportunity, he'll begin to take measures. One smart like Mouse can catch on to him and lead the group. Get out safely, but only after a number of participants are already dead. Right. So, fun fact, these two routes were originally written with a completely different death game in mind. After I changed things up, I liked enough of these routes that I took them and retrofitted them into a new script. I think for the most part I did a good job of implementing it, but if there's some aspects of it that don't fit, that's probably where it stems from. Our confessing here obviously changes how the ensuing conversation plays out. Rooster's not doing as usual, let's tie her back up because it's a tiger. That's not the play out that will not play out the way he wants it to. Yeah, I did notice that. So this juncture is one of the subtlest in the game, and the fact that sheep contains critical knowledge doesn't help things. I think people going from the sheep route to horse route will know what to do, but it might be hard to spot things from reverse. An inventory was taken to make sure everything was there. Them jumping to horse being the one to activate this trinket is a remnant of the old version. To cut a long story short, in the old version, it pretty much had to be a horse, and everyone knew that from the start. This one doesn't matter if I remember right. I don't know why, but I made bringing sheep along optional. Like I mentioned in the other piece of commentary, this route came back from when I had the philosophy of putting a lot more useless or barely meaningful choices. And this is one, yeah, this is definitely one of them I noticed. So fun fact, this section's pretty different. This route was adapted from a previous version of the script where the death game was a bit different. In turn, some specifics of the scenario change, including the fact they had to stay here for 24 hours. In the original story of this, the murders take place at night. Many are sleeping, but there's 3 guards. Due to circumstances, Bunny actually ends up killing Monkey. And when he's trying to cover that up, Sheep kills Pig, the 3rd guard. There's a lot to this whole thing I can go into, but probably take too long to explain. But a fun unintended consequence of this saga is that even though it didn't make the final game, the scene was a big responsibility for how much of a dick Bunny was. The scene basically required Bunny to act very selfishly and manipulatively for it to work. At the time I already knew Bunny wasn't going to be a good person, but at the same time he was still fundamentally a good person. But then I thought, you know what, if he needs to act like a worse person for the scene, why not make him a worse person? And even though the scene was removed, Bunny stayed the worst person because I like the character choice independent of everything else. You can see slight remnants of the previous choice in the way Ox talks to Bunny later on. Again, in an earlier version, the conversation gunshot interrupts as Bunny confessing to his part of the crime. Another diagram. Oh, with the murders taking place at night and needing to solve it. Okay, yeah, that does sound a bit... Yeah, that's a completely different death game there. The diagram here would have been helpful. Probably would have been helpful. We already saw how that first attempt played out. Yeah, another diagram might have helped, but... There's a slight trend of Mouse kind of acting like a prick throughout the routes. There's a slight trend of Mouse kind of acting like a prick throughout the routes. It's not very noticeable since more often than not she's pretty justified, but it comes more when she acts with Sheep. Originally in this route she bullied Sheep way more, but I figured that even though some of the jokes are funny, they're also out of character. Like I said, Mouse is kind of a prick, but she's not a straight up jerk. So I toned it back, and the most you see is Mouse pushing Sheep around more than anyone else. Yeah, I guess that. I did notice that she was being a bit of a jerk to Sheep. But enough, this is one of the few times with a more mystery-themed route where you're straight up asked to name a culprit. I thought it'd end up happening more, but the structure of a lot of these routes prevented it. Who the main suspect should be. Big when everyone went looking for her. What? Well, everyone thought she was already dead. She was just late. Yeah, I remember this, noting this one because the gun had to have been used to get attention because with Horse's death there was a silencer used, but it wasn't used elsewhere, which means it wasn't used for the dragon scene. I'll do it. No one deserves the execution the Jade Emperor is trying to do. No, no one shoot her. I don't care what the speakers say, that's murder. I guess just really... So I guess that's fair. I didn't dare meet her eyes. I just exited the room. The group followed. No one entered the room for the rest of the race. Sheep stayed there lying empty. Blind, everyone gathered in the cafeteria. Apparently, he'd been searching for trinkets and found a few. That didn't matter anymore. We used them and moved as a group. At one point, Tiger left the group. She didn't explain herself, but no one felt like following her. We know why she took her leave. She must have wanted her final moments to herself. If nothing's found in the first 3 rounds, but the Sheep pad trinkets and weapons, Horse will be assigned a role to force him to act. Furthermore, if Sheep does not trust the group, she'll go off on her own and come up with a plan. Determined. Here we are. That's what I want. Alright, because Sheep trusts the group, that means, Horse will act. It doesn't matter whether you volunteer rock, paper, scissors. Full disclosure, I think the soda bit might be my favorite in the whole game. I'm a good comedian. This game doesn't have a light tone, so there's not too many jokes in it. This one's just a full comedic setup, so maybe it's indulgent, but I think it delivers pretty well. By speaking of comedy, I estimate a good 70% of the humor in the entire game comes from Rooster. Maybe 65%. Fun stories, the maps in this section were done by me, no surprise, but when I'm making them I did sort of maybe screw up, so I had to rewrite the section to be in line with that screw up. Oh well. In the original version of this route, Ox actually dies here. He tried to be screwy, open a window and get executed. Oh my. The original version of this route, Ox actually dies here. I don't know why I put that in there, so I also don't know why I took it out. I don't mourn its absence, though. I wish I had another bunny expression for the scene. None of them perfectly fit the mood. Yeah. Fun story, this section used to be a bit more batshit insane. Involved, I kid you not, horse throwing a knife through Tiger... thrown into Bunny's forehead. Okay, I'm gonna say that would have been a bit too out there, even for the bit out there stuff this game has. It was absurd, but intentionally so. I figured this whole route was kind of absurd, and that's a final logical escalation of the idea. Taste testers were mixed on it, though. A few got what was going for and quite liked it, others had brought them out of it. I probably would have been in the latter category, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. In the end, I decided it wasn't a hill I wanted to die on and changed it, and I do like the change. It's a nice moment to showcase Bunny's brutality. So, a horse's backstory is one of the earliest ones I had in mind. It's basically a Jekyll and Hyde variant, but without a supernatural twist. I like the idea of somebody wanted to do evil, internalizing that concept and using a physical object as a crutch. Someone raised so strict they had to disassociate to do wrong, and how that would spiral out of control. But I try to be very careful with the language. Between this and Monkey, I fear I might have slightly fallen into the trap of showcasing and neurotypicals as scary or evil, which was not the intent. It has a very real-world basis, and there's enough of that shit already. Problem is, from a writing perspective, it's an easy trope to fall into, but I want to be clear that Horse does not suffer from a split personality or anything like that. I don't think it'd even be a thing in this case. It's a hollow way of coping that's gone too far. Okay, yeah, for whatever it's worth, that's generally the vibe I got from this entire situation. And that Horse was simply justifying himself, that it wasn't his own other self, it was just him trying to cope by saying, well, it's clearly not me, it's other me. So yeah, I did get what you were going for, rest assured. Oh, nice. Who killed anyone? So, like, having Snake explicitly make comments setting this up is kind of weak, but I also don't think I can count on people having this knowledge, so I guess I had to be this way. I will definitely say the horse traders path is one of the more intense ones, especially, yeah, in the general sense. I forgot where I was going there, but yeah. So I guess I should look at my favorite routes here. Definitely the mouse traitor one. And, even if it does break things a bit, having the player go into the villain's role is actually pretty engaging. I did like... Horses was definitely one of the more intense ones, like I said. Rooster actually turning out to have more depth even before the big reveal, I think was a really good one. Snake... I don't know, honestly. Snake's is pretty good, though. Especially since one of the few times the traitor wins with other people is really utilized. Tiger's is also definitely a favorite. It's where we learn a lot, and I did really like a lot of the thinking that Pigs put me through, as well as showing off that she's a lot more competent than she seems. Well, I guess I do like all the routes to some extent, because, like I said, I do like the gambling games and stuff they do for the dog route. The bunny route is more interesting for the Among Us style voting stuff that goes through. The dragon one with the pack one definitely reveals a lot to me personally about Dog and Dragon as characters, which I then take knowledge of in later routes. The sheep one, I figured eventually there would be one where she ends up snapping somehow, and I was genuinely interested in seeing how that would go. Ox route, I'm not sure if I'd call it the weakest, but at the same time, I do like... That might just be because I really do like that you're actually given a chance to do some proper investigating and put stuff together, and indeed that you can solve none, part, or all of it based on your choices like that. I wish these cards reminded me which routes I had to take to do those. Alright, so... Let's go back to the main menu then. I need to go for one of the other routes. Hateful and ambitious, okay. That's already done there, so let's finish 92%? Interesting, what am I missing? Taurus, okay, that's not what I want then. Nope. I need to try, I want to get the rooster one in particular. Let me try and remember how I can get there. Actually, I can probably... Ah, crap. Accidentally hit the mic. I need to remember how do I get there. Alright, let's try and get through here. Okay, this is where they split 6 people, but with this, 6 people now defeated are victorious personalities. You know what that means? Dragon's being real legit here. Which I actually think it's fair to have half survive and half down their merits. Maybe there is something to that. I disagree, but maybe there's something. The point is she massively failed to consider the fact that these rules were deceptively brutal. The likelihood this ends up with a 3-person or even 0-person survival rate is extremely high. Early on, decided not to reuse any major trinkets for any routes. If there's any major trinket I'd be fine breaking that rule for, it'd be this one. I don't know why, I just really like group dynamics the thing's set up. I think the war between the 4 teams has a lot of possibilities. Don't get me wrong, I like how this route came out, but there's a lot of potential now things could play out differently. The limiting factor in this is the fact this game is sadly very first person. Showing scenes with the other group would be a difficult task. Still, I had to read a Rooster Dog Pig Team fanfic. So then I saw someone enter from the back of the cafeteria. They'd actually been in the back for a while. Random fun fact nobody will ever pick up on. The track entitled Dance of the Snakes is playing here. This is subtle. Now, this plan was largely masterminded by Snake. Interesting. Is this song... I actually could not find any music of this game on YouTube or anything. I even just checked right now to be sure I wasn't wrong. I actually do like a lot of the music in the general sense of this game in the general sense. There's not too much of it, but it's very atmospheric and fits the mood properly. Sets the mood properly. The more you know. However, someone might find Mouse's group actions excessively dumb here. Let's see here. Dragon's packet victorious. Horse's group is actually on our side. However, some might find Mouse's group's actions excessively dumb here. I would posit the feeling will often be brought up by dramatic irony. That is to say, players who already know Bunny is full of shit. From Mouse's perspective, I think it's a reasonable enough mistake to make. Yeah, I kind of agree, honestly. Yeah, at this point, they didn't... Because since each of these timelines is self-contained, and the player is going to know who the traitors are long before the characters in the proper route do. I wonder how that happened. Monkey somehow was able to slip out of Rooster's grapple, immediately started sprinting. Rooster chased. I wonder how that happened. Oh my. I would laugh. What happened? Lex crazy. She came after me with a knife. I like to throw in little lines like these wherever I can. Ones that are unassuming at first, but if you know, you know. Yeah, this is in reference to... Tiger being attacked by her mom. She disarms her mom, but then takes her out because her anger is too much. You're not suggesting we pretend to be Rooster, are you? Kind of. How stupid do you think they are? This is a really dumb plan, but it's kind of funny, so I like it. Look, I'm not saying fake Rooster goes up and talks from a distance. Yeah, that's not a very good plan, but honestly, I couldn't think of anything better, so it's hard to blame Ox too much for it. The messed up thing here is the dog's willing to kill whoever was under that mask. Probably Mouse, but even if it was Rooster. Both planned to double-cross the other. How ironic. Yeah, because he would have been fine taking out even Rooster, because the point is he doesn't care for as long as everyone else dies. You want? You just try to kill a pack member. A pack member? No, 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 no. I thought of this exploit and immediately knew I wanted someone to use it. But it had to be sparingly in the right moment. After beginning to write this route, I knew this was the moment. I succeeded in making Dragon a badass and prolonging the fight against her. I liked the moment enough to commission a CG for it. Yeah, this is definitely one of the scenes where it really is enhanced by having a CG. Having a special image, I mean. Stuff like, there's not very many in this game, but the ones chosen really add a lot to it. And the fact it's used sparingly, it really does help a lot, I think. It makes it all the more impactful now that it has happened. Yeah. You can talk Dragon down because she knows loyalty. She can't hold against someone for being loyal just like she was. Now, how do I remember which one is a... I need to remember how to get to the route for, not this one. Yeah, the rooster route is what I need to figure out, but how do I get there? I do kind of wish I could check these out to get a reminder of how to go. I need to think about this. Not clever, I don't want that. Not that one. I think I can check something here. Let me see here. What do I think I wrote down the rooster route somewhere. Let me try. Alright, I need to... I'm trying to think here. Oh yeah, I need to go with Ox, right. I forgot siding with Ox actually does matter there. Or how could I forget? Oops. This route may be one of my favorites. Not the favorite, but up there. I don't know, there's a lot of good stuff in it. For one, there's a lot of rooster, which is always positive. More on that later. Also, I like the idea of for a contestant trying to take advantage of the ambiguous rules and forge some of their own for their own devices. Super ironic roosters, they ends up resorting to this tactic. Where look next, I guess the hallway is good as anywhere else. Right. I should probably save this one here a moment. I am gonna have to go back here a moment, so let's make a false one, because that ends up being this here. Okay, this is a bit off topic, but I'm shocked there was never a trick that involved physically swapping out two of the safes. I mean, it's mentioned several times they all pretty much look identical, and they weren't that big, so it'd be feasible. It's the type of trick I'd totally do. I guess you can chalk that up to a list of ideas I never got around to. Yeah, I imagine with a game like this, there's a lot of ideas you'd intend to, but just didn't end up being in the cards, so to speak. Rooster accusing himself of such a power move and also so in character. Yeah, it really is. I think this might be one of those situations where even after the later reveal with the upper tile happens, people won't put together just who the culprit must be just because of how incognito Rooster approaches this. I think the only reason these sections work is just how well done Mouse is with Dog. Yeah, I think they make some interesting bouncing off one another. If Mouse was just taken in by this, the writing would be a bit too cheesy. I think throwing in small mysteries like this are important. People would buy a horse King Bunny escaping as the true killer a lot, the more they'd buy Bunny doing that. Casting. Someone else killed a horse, then hid Bunny's biological escape. Am I understanding you? That's just what I'm saying, yeah. But everyone agreed the suspicions cast on a horse held a lot more water. Would buy horse killing Bunny running off, but not Bunny. So why is it up like this? Solving in a small mystery like that, these are important. It shows you that you, as the author, have thought through the implications of your scenarios fully. Yeah. I think that's a good point. And for astute readers, it allows them the same opportunity. I couldn't give the dog the answer. It was a minor problem, but as far as critical, what could the explanation be? The mystery route doesn't really have a lot of solving. That choice just there accounts for pretty much all of it. The issue is the mystery without evidence obtained from looking there was too unfair. And the mystery with that evidence a bit too easy. I think I regret is that I wasn't able to add a bit more deduction to what I was consider a pretty decent mystery. Yeah, figuring out that it was hidden in the ceiling because earlier it was discovered something could be hidden in the ceiling was a bit too straightforward, but without our ability to actually search the room manually, it would have been a bit too difficult. Another reason why I really like this route is because of the confrontation with Rooster. You see him acting fully as a villain, something you don't get to witness on the true route. So, he's jovial even when confronted, but soon enough, you also get to see a serious side of him. I think for a number of players it would be a cool moment, realizing beneath the surface, Rooster is actually pretty calculating and a legitimately good actor. His backstory, the fact he's one of the few that kills for non-trader related reasons, but reasons the player may initially seem justified. I think that sets him up as pretty interesting. Yeah, I'd say that matches how I felt about the situation. So this little bit is pure fiction. The thought process behind this route was one where Rooster decides to indulge in some personal vengeance after being influenced by Monkey. After getting his revenge, though, he decides he might as well personally take out the target since he's already put physically killing back on the table. He adds this to justify why he tried to kill Dragon, but if he got away with his Snake, Mouse, Pig, the other traitor would have all been on the hit list. Alright, so he was lying when he said he was only after those specific people. What the hell's a me? Yeah, it was. Rooster does get stabbed with a pen a lot, huh? There's probably something symbolic about that, but don't ask me. Alright, there's one last one I want to do then. Some sheep. Yeah. Oxen. The deck of cards. This time we get a solution properly. It's a horrible item. This really blows. Yeah, this never really comes into play. To be honest, this scene was included for two reasons. One, I want a filler scene between now and meeting Rooster, both for pacing the plot. Two, I want to stick the explanation for Kafka's toxins somewhere, and there weren't many good options. Alright, so yeah, it does go back to this. Alrighty. Well, it's a bit of a short stream tonight, but since I'm going to be busy this weekend, I figure I shouldn't do anything too major, so that'll be the end for now. We got to see a decent amount of the developer commentary, give some more thoughts on the game, and I really did like this game. It really does feel like a really intriguing. It's a really intriguing death game plot, and the characters all really stuck with me really well. Even some of the ones that weren't as utilized as much, like Horse and Pig, still remained with me a decent amount. And in a way, I guess it's probably good that there were some more straightforward characters, I guess. So, yeah, I guess Sheep was a bit more straightforward because she wasn't used too much, but even she had an interesting route as well. So yeah, they are all decent, a really good diverse cast with memorable personalities and villain routes, and, well, routes in general, not necessarily villain routes, since, like, Ika's Rooster's route is not the one where he's the traitor. But yeah. Well, I'm glad I was able to do a bit more here. It's a shame there isn't into more of this game, because I really do think it really does a great job of holding up to stuff like the Zero Escape series, especially the first one, which I imagine is the main influence based on, you know, everything that went on. But there's definitely a lot in there, and I really... Well, yeah, I've already sung enough praises, so I'll just go ahead and cut it off here to avoid boring everyone. Alright, well, thank you for watching, hope you had a good time, and I'll see you later.